Wonka Watch, a podcast that has been diseased, plagued, and cursed with the need for all things Wonka. I'm your host, Elaine. We've got my co-host, Felicia, over here, who is having a moment of silence to collect her thoughts because this episode is going to be very emotional. And I wanted to make a PSA at the beginning to say that Felicia and I are friends. We love each other. And relationships go through bumps, and there are hard discussions that have to be had. And so I just want to, from the get-go, whatever happens, just know we're okay. We're not getting, we're not splitting up the family. It's going to be fine. And in fact, I know that for the past few episodes, I've been really, what's the word? Shitting on Felicia. Just getting pissy, and like pissy overall. And like Felicia knows we're fine, but I realize maybe y'all don't know I'm fine because I can see her face and we're giggling, but I don't want this to be like, Elaine, what the fuck? So I have written notes for myself.
On my keyboard.
I've written notes for myself to keep myself in check. So one of the first note is Felicia is a human being with feelings. And then the second note is human beings have flaws. And we're going to learn a lot about those flaws in this episode. So just, that being said, clearly we are two people who were corrupted when we learned that there was going to be a prequel created for Wonka. The Wonka Rapture is coming March 2023. It's released. We have a lot to get through. And so we thought, okay, let's crank out the Wonka lore. Here it is. The one, the only, Johnny Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Felicia, how are you emotionally feeling right now? Are you okay?
I'm feeling great. I don't know where this is coming from, this whole approach you're taking, because I'm doing great.
I see it in your eyes.
Well, I mean, I may or may not have written 5,000 words about this movie, which is more words than I wrote about, my college thesis, any paper I'm proud of. I think that's just me doing my job as a Wonka scholar, and like I don't know what the problem is here.
And I let me look at my notes. Hold on. Support your friends in media. I think it's really awesome that you care so much about something. And I don't think that you should be, feeling defensive. I know that I, in the past, maybe have not created a comfortable environment for you to share your, this is really hard for me.
I think we just need to skip to the point. I don't hate Johnny Wonka. I kind of like Johnny Wonka. And I have to say that. Yes. Right here on the podcast. You need to know that there is a Johnny Wonka, I guess, someone who's at peace with Johnny Wonka on this podcast. And if you need to stop listening, that's okay. We understand. We understand entirely.
I'm honestly going to be speechless probably for most of this because I did not write 5,000 words.
Well, to be fair, I don't think I was supposed to write 5,000 words. No one should have written 5,000 words about Johnny Wonka.
But it's very you. And I think it's on brand. And I'm excited to hear what you wrote because I actually wrote less notes for this than I did the original one.
Well, it's good because you kind of carried me through the 1970s movie. And I really didn't have many notes for that one. This movie, I'm gonna sound really fucking pretentious in these notes. I don't know what possessed me. It was like the soul of a sad 16-year-old on Tumblr really possessed me through writing about this, who's like analyzing a TV show that's not that deep. I don't think I got to the point of referencing poetry, but I was like really fucking close. Okay,
it's important for people to know because you have a degree, like you took film classes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
so I actually got into multiple MFA programs for directing, and and I think maybe I'm going to library school now, and I really like it. But I think this was maybe that film student part of me. Maybe it was its last. I was regurgitating the last bits of it from my soul while writing this.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was a bit of a purge because I referenced so many niche films that no one's talked about and aren't relevant to the movie, but I decided they were. So that's kind of a warning. I don't know how to start this. I mean, we're going to keep the discussion civil. Little Timmy's not going to be without a home. We're going to take care of him. And no matter what happens, we will both support him as our son.
Yes.
Timothée Chalamet is our son now. And yeah.
Okay.
To be fair.
He calls me daddy?
Sorry,
no, please.
Where did you get that from?
Delete everything I just said. Erase that from the record. That did not happen. Oh my god. Okay, like my tea's caffeinated. You got me. I don't drink caffeine, y'all. It's really spicy. Ooh. You know what?
Fun of me, okay?
What? You just projected there because I was not making fun of you. I don't even know what you're talking about.
You making fun of me because I couldn't drink spicy tea 2 episodes ago.
Oh, sorry. I don't remember our own canon. Sorry.
I listen to your bullshit all the time. I edit this shit.
Okay. Hey. Felicia is a human being, and so is Elaine. So
You're pointing at a blank phone screen.
Okay, I didn't write them down. You got me. Okay? I thought I could just remember it off the top of my head. But apparently, it's harder for some people to remember to be civil. And I'm just trying to be civil. And you're real pushing me, girl. You are shoving me in the chocolate vat and getting me sucked up the tube of despair with Augustus glue. I shouldn't be crying yet. No.
Let's go to this week's Wonka Watch.
Wonka Watch, the latest news on our Wonka.
Hey, Elaine, there was fucking nothing this week.
Wait, really?
I check my email every day. Nothing.
Wow.
Timmy's, they're filming in Oxford. Okay. It's nothing. The only thing I found was just a movie, like, it was one of those articles that's like details about the new Wonka movie. But the only interesting thing that was new about this from this whattowatch.com article is it gave a official synopsis, which I've never heard for the movie.
Oh.
So the What to Watch article says, we don't have full plot details yet, but we do know it's going to be a prequel. And then they said the official synopsis so far is an origin story that explores the vivid, mythical beginnings of the imaginative young inventor before he becomes the renowned, scrumdiddlyumptious Mozart of chocolate. The Mozart part is
okay, hear me out. Do you ever think that,
talking about Mozart?
Mozart's ghost is up there and people are just comparing other people to being the Mozart of Plato, the Mozart of,
like, what does that even mean?
Architect. It's like, was he a child prodigy and then, like, did the boom? But you know what I mean? Like, if I was
I don't think we know enough about Mozart to do it.
I don't think other people do either. They're just like, that's a word. Let me just say it, and it's fine.
Like, that's like, people will call themselves the Willy Wonka of anything. I got a thing on my newsfeed this week that was, and my goal for when people call themselves the Willy Wonka of XYZ, I only include it if the person is at the par of, like, the Jaleel White Wonka weed story, because that was iconic, and nothing has gotten to that level yet. But, like, Machine Gun Kelly called himself the Willy Wonka of nail polish this week, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because apparently he has a nail polish brand. He wants to make this whole, like, brand integration thing, and I'm like, I'm getting sick and tired of it, Elaine. I read so many articles about, oh, this is the Willy Wonka of X, and it's just, like, slightly decorated chocolate, and I'm like, no. Get out. Get out. Just get out of my inbox.
Trying to ride on the coattails of some, like, to be yourself. Like, what if? Yeah. I feel like Goo Goo Clusters is the only one that I will accept Willy Wonka-esque because they are their own thing. Like, that's the only, like, to compare them, the human brain must go, I need to latch onto something. Let's dive into the chocolate river of Johnny Wonka.
Okay.
That intro scares me.
It did. This watch was basically fresh for both of us because, like, I don't think either of us have really seen it since, like, well, I didn't see. I've definitely seen it later than 2005 because I would have been 2, and there's no. Why would you show this movie to a 2-year-old?
Yeah, why would you do that?
No. I probably saw it when I was like 6 or 7, but I did not remember almost anything about it. I remember there was a few specific things that did stick out in my mind, but the rest of it was basically brand new.
I saw it in 2005 in theaters. Haven't seen it since, and as I was watching, things would flash back to me.
So for me, I think I want to preface my opinions on this movie so that I don't get bombarded with hate. I think this movie and the 1971 movie are so fundamentally different. It's almost difficult to compare them. Same. Which is the same as why I don't mind Johnny Wonka. I would never say he's better than Gene Wonka. They're just so different. I don't think it's even like they are like playing two completely different characters, and I enjoy both of them. So for me, like, I can't compare them. I can't say one's better than the other because it's just it's apples to oranges. So like kind of the way that I was able to put into words how I feel they're different is like for me, the Wonka, this 2005 Wonka feels more like a movie, whereas the 1971 one kind of feels like a stage musical that had like a really big budget. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Because there's not much characters in the 1971. Like there's characters, but no one has any depth or personality. It's very cardboard cutout. Even the Gene Wonka, who has amazing stage presence, but like that is not a person. Whereas this movie, they feel a lot more like real people, as much as the Wonkaverse can be, if that makes sense. People have a little bit more layers. And I think the main reason that kind of I liked this one a lot was because Charlie Bucket was really cute and adorable, and I actually liked him in this movie, which is very different than 1971, where that kid, get off my screen. I didn't care. And in this movie, I was rooting for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is gonna be hard to say too. I really came in here hating this movie.
I know.
Because it was not an enjoyable first watch. 2005, I was 11. I think I saw this with a youth group. It's really awkward. You know what I mean? Like it was just like the setting and everything. And I mean, I clearly haven't gone back to rewatch it. But I agree. I think the characters, everyone having a backstory, I always like that when people have mysterious backstories. And so I think this version of Wonka with his backstory was interesting. I'm still terrified of him. But I do agree, Charlie is so cute. And there were characters I didn't like before that I did like in this movie.
Agreed. I think we'll talk about that later. But
yeah, but I concur with you so far.
Okay, this is what I thought. I thought we were going to agree on more than you were like, I fucking hate this movie. I'm going to hate every fucking bit of it. And I was like, it's not, after I watched it, I'm like, it's not that bad. I mean, like,
that's true. I guess 11-year-old me versus like 27-year-old me might have.
Yeah, and I kind of expected I would like this movie going in because I love movies that are like kind of garbage and just make insane choices that you can't tell if they're good or not, which is kind of exactly what this movie is, where you're watching some of the choices they make and you're like, I don't know how to feel about this.
Well, that's Tim Burton for you. That's Tim Burton for you. It was very much a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
So much so, like.
Anyway, okay. So I threw out my notes. The 5,000 words isn't just me. A lot of it is Wonka movie trivia for this movie, so it's not just me. There's a little bit more in there. So apparently the screenwriter for this movie had never seen the original 1971 movie when asked by Tim Burton to write the script, and after finishing the screenplay he watched the 1971 version and was surprised how much darker the family movie was compared to his own, which honestly this movie freaked me out way more than the 1971 one. So I don't agree with that. This movie was like genuinely scary at certain points, and I forgot there was one scene in this movie that terrified me as a kid.
I think you can think of a scene that terrified me. I think you can think of one.
It'll be interesting to see if it's the same one.
Oh, I love this.
It'll be a little game.
Is this our like co-host therapy? Like, is this our couples therapy we've been talking about? Like, Johnny Wonka might bring us together again.
Actually, yeah, I think this is going better than I thought already.
Oh,
I mean, it's funny, we're less arguing now than we were in the intro. We came in really hostile, and I think we got it out of our system.
I love that I think that's actually a smart choice in a way to get somebody who hadn't seen the original, because then you know they're not influenced by what happened before, which is how we did get such a different variation that it does feel like a completely separate
get
movie.
This super different take than like the same shit, you know?
Exactly. Agreed. Because it wouldn't, if it was the same exact shit, it would not have like hit what the original did, because you can't beat originals like that when they become cult classics and stuff. So I am in that sense really glad that, you know, Tim Burton, you made
choices.
You made choices.
All right, so let's jump right into these opening credits. So this intro is a much more threatening intro than the 1971. it's very much dark whimsy, which is Tim Burton-y, but there's also this like very Industrial Revolution kind of component to this.
I literally wrote that.
Yeah. Oh no, we're on the same page. Like,
wow, I copied off your paper.
Which I think is interesting. So Wonka, in the opening credits, he hand places the golden ticket, which is
his CGI hand, by the way.
Yes, I was about to say, but the hand is 100% CGI. Yeah. And everything about this opening is so fake, which I also found was interesting. The bars are wrapped at about 300 feet up in the air, it looks like. And in my head, I was trying to figure out where the fuck is Wonka standing that he can place those. Wonka's factory in this movie is a lot more like brutalist and authoritarian. And they also mentioned like in the trivia that it was like explicitly based on fascist architecture, which is interesting. And I did say this Wonka would launch a half-baked presidential campaign.
Yeah, I completely see that because there is something very unsettling. And they did a very like Harry Potter kind of open where the Warner Brothers,
that was like, literally what I was saying.
Right?
I literally wrote this movie reminds me of Harry Potter.
Why are we the same? So there's the clouds and then the Warner Brothers like studios like symbol peers through. And then you get the same kind of like music, just like it's a little creepier, which I think the music kind of fits the Wonka we have here, but I swear to God it was ruined when I started hearing the buzzing or the kazoos of Oompa Loompas. Yeah. Because that's what happens. It's like, no, and then it's like, I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm scared. But it did its job, I guess.
So I wanted to put in real quick, during pre-production, this is a bit of trivia, director Tim Burton visited Roald Dahl's former house in the Buckinghamshire village of Great Missenden. Oh. And Licky Dahl, who I guess is, or Lissy Dahl? I don't know who that is. But remembers Burton entering Dahl's famed writing shed and saying, "This is the Bucket's house," and thinking to herself, "Thank God somebody gets it." And then she showed Tim Burton the original handwritten manuscripts, which Burton discovered were more politically incorrect than the published book, which is not surprising. But apparently the manuscript included a child named Herpes.
Look, him getting away with Veruca as a wart, yeah. A child named Herpes?
Yeah, so he was pushing his luck on that one.
What the fate of Herpes was?
I don't know. I don't want to know. I mean, okay, so I think we first have to talk about Charlie's introduction in the film. So we open with Charlie, and this movie is called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is good because Charlie in this movie is like an actual character. He's played by Freddie Highmore, and he's so adorable in this movie. Like, I cannot stress to you enough. Like, you actually root for Charlie Bucket in this movie. And he very much looks like if a cartoon mouse was made into a real boy, you know?
Aww, yeah.
He's very adorable, and I think he was perfectly cast in this role. And I never thought I would say, like, oh, I was rooting for Charlie. But in this movie, you understand why he gets the factory. He obviously cared. You know, I just think he's great. My take on the production design of the Wonkas. Wonka 1971, interior factory, highly superior to this movie. No question. It's so much better. However, I much prefer the like production design outside the factory. 2005 takes it for me because the Bucket's house is so much more whimsical and so much more fun. It's like on this huge diagonal. It's very like the burrow from Harry Potter. And it also looked very like Christmas Card, which I really liked. I
like it physically shouldn't be able to stand up where
exactly.
It is. And it doesn't make sense. And there are a lot of moments in this movie where we defy science,
logic,
and logic and stuff. And so, yeah, I think it really does add to the charm. And it's kind of, it reminds me of the Harry Potter burrow, like you said, like, again, which is interesting. We have a lot of like Harry Potter thing. And this is the era of Harry Potter.
Exactly. I think they were trying to kind of capitalize a little bit off that heat, you know?
Yes.
And then I do just have a note here that says Charlie has a dad, a DILF, which I expand on in my notes. Charlie's dad became a hyperfixation for me in this movie. I'm not going to get into it, okay?
We will. It's going to happen. Okay. It's going to happen.
So the another piece of trivia, the lady who played Grandma Georgina stated in an interview on AskMen.com that she read the scripts for both of the grandmothers and picked the one where she got to kiss Johnny Depp. So good for her, I guess. I thought that was fun.
What is AskMen.com?
I don't know. I have the link right here. Let me click on it. Ask Men, become a better man. By
who? Whose idea?
It just says guy. The headlines are news, sex, dating, grooming, style, fitness, gear, man skills, amplify.
So it's like Cosmo, but manly.
It's actually just a very normal website.
Oh, okay. We should try to get interviewed on there.
Baby steps, Ask men. Interviews is the first place to interview Wonka Watch.
Timothy, hey, Timmy, I know you're listening. Because I know you're like, oh, Johnny
Can
Wonka,
you hook us up with askmen.com?
Can you hook us up? It's like interviewing you, whatever. But like
askmen.com. I feel like we have a lot we could offer.
I have a lot of questions to ask men also. I feel like this can go both ways, you know?
It would be a kind of a cultural exchange between us and askmen.com.
Yes. Now, are we like the gals they're thinking of? The people that they would want to know stuff from? Most certainly not. But, you know, is she the grandma that just randomly goes, sorry, circling back. Is she the grandma that just randomly goes, I like grapes?
That's the exact line I was thinking of.
The best. Yes, I do remember laughing about that in the theater.
She's
great
very
delivery.
Fun.
The grandparents have personalities.
They do.
Which is
great. I'm going to say it. I liked Grandpa Joe in this movie. I'm going to say it.
I did
liked
too.
him.
I did too.
Oh my God. He's not awful. He's just a normal old man.
Cute.
He's very much like, the way I described it is like 1971 Grandpa Joe is like evil swindler mentor that Charlie only realizes was a bad influence when he gets older, and like he swindled him out of all his money. Whereas Grandpa George in this movie is very much a Disney animal companion, which feels rude, but that's really much the role he takes. And he just goes yippee a lot, and I think he's really fun.
My gosh, when
fun.
He is just so sweet.
Yeah.
And
he also looks old enough where I believe the whole bedridden thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And then it's more joyous. It's like he's so happy now he's standing up and dancing, as opposed to, I secretly could have done this the whole time, but I just didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, now we
and
can
there's
go to
there's no tobacco money debacle, but we gotta keep going. We gotta keep going in order. We gotta stay on track. Okay. So we move on to Charlie's dad works in a toothpaste factory, and this version really embraces the industrial hellscape that the 70s movie hinted at, with his dad working the long hours and the sterility and the consistency of the work environments. I told you I went very film student on this. Okay. So Wonka fired everybody from his factory, which basically caused an unemployment crisis in their town, which is implied. So like it's kind of more clearly shown that like one of the main reasons Charlie's family is in debt is because of Wonka in this.
Yes.
It's not great. I also liked Charlie in this movie does things. He's building this huge sculpture of the Wonka factory, which what was that made out of? What was it, like toothpaste caps? I was really confused.
Toothpaste caps, but when we get to Wonka's body, it looks like chewed up hardened toothpaste.
I did. So when I looked at it, I thought he was building it out of teeth at first. Which I realized didn't make sense.
That's fair.
And I did make a note here, which I probably didn't need to write this. It says the prequel should have been stop motion, and it's just that weird little Q-tip man Charlie made. Oh, so it is his Wonka.
Oh my God. The idea of a stop motion Wonka is the because we've briefly touched on it, but we haven't really gone full in depth why I can't do claymation. But the idea of the Wonka, I bet Tim Burton, you know, he was like, okay, but can we do this as claymation? Because you know what? I like these.
I love claymation, except for Wallace and Gromit, who terrify me for some reason. I don't know why, but they freak me out.
That's like the nicest one.
No.
Are you kidding me?
There is this dark energy in those shorts. When you watch them, haunting. We kind of get a bit of a Wonka origin story in this movie.
I love it so much. I mean, I don't love it, but I like that we get an origin.
Here's the thing. Like, this really confirms they're not taking anything from the 2005 movie.
Oh, no.
Obviously not. So he had a shop on Cherry Street. I'm guessing in his 20s, I presume. There's a candy that he gives Grandpa Joe, because Grandpa Joe worked in his candy shop. He gives him a little egg that sprouts a bird out of it, which I felt was super Harry Potter Weasley candy thing.
Yes.
And they were really trying to like get on that train, which timeline-wise makes a lot of sense. And then Grandpa Joe tells Charlie about a story about how Wonka was asked to build a chocolate palace by this guy named Prince Pondicherry. And I will say, the actor playing Prince Pondicherry did what needed to be done. He was given 130% in that role. There was something about it. He was killing it, you know. And there was also they put in these like squelching sound effects as the palace melted, because Wonka was like, the chocolate's gonna melt, and he's like, it won't melt, and then the palace melts, which I don't really know what the point of that story was. Like, why did we need to know that?
I'm not sure. Maybe in the book there's more story to, like, part of me thought originally,
I can tell you, I read the book like 2 years ago. There's nothing more. It's just a fun little silly anecdote.
I feel like that should really tie into the whimsy of Wonka and how maybe he did used to interact with the outside world, and then I thought there would be negative like consequences to the fact that this prince's palace fell down and he's like, I'm gonna hunt down Wonka, but it's just like, whoops. Like, and I don't know. I feel like there's something there. Oh my God. Throughout my whole notes.
Yeah.
I would think of these scenarios and I'll tell them throughout the episode, but I'd go, fanfic idea? And that Tully's like, fanfic idea? That's 13 chapters worth of fanfic right there. What happens if Prince Pondicherry comes after Wonka?
Hey, I mean, we're gonna do some episodes where we write our own Wonka fanfic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, guys, get excited.
It's gonna be fun. I'm actually very excited about it. So then Grandpa Joe just kind of like gives a backstory for like 10 minutes, but it's filmed in a fun way, so I didn't really care that much. So he starts talking about the chocolate spies, and they filmed this like it was a film noir, which I thought was fantastic, and I loved it. It was really good. So to the point where the a guy comes out of the chocolate factory and hands over a letter that just says secret recipes on it, which did make me laugh.
With a stamp. Someone had to actively get the stamp and
right.
Go, this is it.
And then they mentioned Fickle Grubber.
Which I screeched. I went, go, Fickle Grubber leaves!
I did find, I will be honest, this movie was a lot funnier to me than the 1971 one. I laughed an embarrassing amount of times watching this. Because Grandpa Joe goes, he said he would close it forever. And then Johnny Wonka goes, I'm closing my factory forever. And it made me laugh really hard. I know it's dumb. I know it's like the standard bit of comedy. Basic. But I thought it was funny.
I did a lot of that laughing where you just do like a little like snort with your note. You're like, we're talking about how all these stores are stealing, the chocolate spies are stealing the recipes. And then suddenly Fickle Grubber has the never melting ice cream that Wonka had created and all this stuff, but Charlie hasn't heard of it. And I don't know if that's because he's poor, or did Willy Wonka go Godfather on all these guys' asses and they're gone because we don't see that shit at all. Like, we don't have a Candyman scene where we might get flashes of it. Those other companies just don't exist now.
Honestly, you're probably right.
Fanfic idea?
Came back so hard. He reopened his factory and had like such a big launch that everybody just gave up.
He's like, sorry, everybody. I just like the idea of there being this,
there should have been a sequel to the movie where he was sued by the Supreme Court for making a monopolization of the candy industry.
Oh, yeah.
That's my fan fiction. Willy Wonka x Ruth Bader Ginsburg fan fiction. That's all. Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the golden ticket search, because I'll be honest, my notes, while I wrote so much, it's not coherent on the order of the plot of the movie.
Okay, that's fine.
So Willy Wonka, he sends out the golden tickets. He just kind of does it out of nowhere, but I guess that happens in the 1971 movie too. The way that the golden ticket search is announced is Oompa Loompas on bikes that look like motorcycles put up lost dog posters, but it's about the candy bar. I also think it was interesting that he advertised there would be an unbelievable prize instead of just the lifetime supply of candy, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
This is what I would call like the Wonka Mania sequence, which is, you know, carried over from the 1971 movie. This Wonka Mania sequence is so much worse than the 1971 one in almost every way. It's got like the most stereotypical view of other countries. It's not good. It's not good. I will say I took specific issue that the New York section did not take place in the stock market, and it was all the stock market guys bidding on Wonka bars. I was really angry about that. And with like the ticker tape coming out, instead it was just like a bunch of ladies getting Wonka bars off of like a big Wonka bar dress. I don't know. It wasn't good. It wasn't
didn't
good.
Make sense at all. It was a waste, to be honest. There could have been more.
I kind of wish this wasn't part of the movie. Like, that's the thing. I enjoyed watching this movie. I don't think it's good. But honestly, I kind of feel the same way about the 1971 one. Like, I don't have the kind of like emotional childhood connection to that movie, so I just kind of thought it was fine, and that's how I feel about this one too. So now the first ticket is found by Augustus Gloop, and Gloop, he looks fake in this movie. Like they smoothed out his skin digitally.
Where
or
are
something.
His eyebrows?
Is that what the thing is?
He has no eyebrows. And then I feel like they'd like digitally. He looks CGI'd.
Yeah, he looks like he's made out of rubber. He's very highly stereotypical, obviously, but he does have lines in this movie. So Mel Stewart, they got you beat. But they really
has emotion.
Explicitly made him look like the book illustration, you know, kind of more very cartoonish and over the top. He also looks like Tweedledee and Tweedledum from Alice in Wonderland, like totally. Yep. I think even doesn't the Tim Burton Tweedledee and Tweedledum look exactly like that? This clearly came from the Augustus Gloop design. Is that
Matt Lucas?
I know. I think it is Matt Lucas. Is that Matt Lucas? I was about to say that. Who plays Tweedledee? Hold on.
I am so scared.
If it's not Matt Lucas, we were just very mean. No, it is Matt Lucas. Thank God.
Lucas, yeah. That's like that phase.
Thank God it's Matt Lucas.
Wait. Oh my gosh, wait. We've never considered that Matt Lucas could be listening. Well, Olivia
Matt
Colman
Lucas, if you're listening.
Hey, Matt Lucas. Hi, BFFs. Oh my God, I know. If you need a bitch about Timothy, just be careful because we are still friends with him and I don't want it to get awkward.
He is our son, so we do have to be careful about who he talks to.
Yes, but as his parents, it gets a little rough sometimes. So if we need to share a glass of Pinot and get, share some...
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry, Pinot is inherently funny.
It really I don't drink Pinot Noir.
It's fine. Okay.
I did want to add, so one of Charlie's grandparents is really negative. Like,
yes,
now that we get to talk, he's really negative, and I absolutely love him. And I think that he added the childhood trauma that Charlie really needed because he's very like happy and sweet. And so this negative grandpa really being like, I need you to have some kind of trauma response. Can you become an angry person? Can you start acting out? And it's clear that this evil grandpa's like dreams are not coming true.
Me and Grandpa said, you're too well adjusted, Charlie.
we need to fix it. Destitution was not enough.
Yes. Okay, so Veruca Salt is the next ticket.
Oh my freaking goodness.
Mr. Salt in this made me laugh so hard. The way he just looked at camera and went, I'm in the nut business. It's so funny. I don't know. I don't remember who played him, but gold star. I give you a little badge. You killed that. I like
1971 Mr. Salt better because he had more of that. Like he just was. I
liked this. I liked this Mr. Salt better. I think there was chaos coming from so many different parts of this that I was like, I like this very dry Mr. Salt.
They are the most polished and very clearly rich. The other one, it's more like we have money, but we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
they're standing on a fucking dead polar bear.
Yeah. Like, this one also leans into the scene. It has the scene in the factory again where Mr. Salt pays all his workers to open the candy bars, and this is where the Tumblr 16-year-old sad girl starts to creep in. When I wrote industrialistic, brutalistic hell again, the synchronization of movements and sounds, hundreds of workers at the whim of a child's wishes to discover opportunity that's ripped away from them to give into a rich child with access to anything she wants. Felicia, it's Wonka. Stop it. Past Felicia, calm the fuck down.
No. Hey, that's my friend you're talking about.
I do think it's interesting. In this version, the tickets are explicitly meant for children.
Yes.
Yeah, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and I like that. So there's a scene where Papa Salt, that sounds awful.
Peppy Salt.
Mr. Salt, whatever, someone in the factory finds the ticket and she tries to hide it and then he grabs it from her. And here's where I was like, a slash fiction where we get factory worker Willy Wonka mixed with Les Mis. Is this person Fantine from Les Mis, where she gets kicked out of the factory?
What you were saying.
Oh no, not that kind of slash. I realize now. Sorry, my fanfic terms
No, it's
are
fine.
a little dusty.
I thought you were trying to you were saying crossover is what you were trying to say.
Yes, my bad.
I thought you were trying to say there's a weird power relationship between that factory worker and
realized
Mr.
the second I
Salt.
said it. No, because I'm doing a Wonka / Grandpa Joe. We all know this.
Yeah, we know. So next is the scene where Charlie Bucket opens his first Wonka bar. So this is on his birthday, and this Charlie, he's not a little. He's so different from the 1971 Charlie. As a reminder, 1971 Charlie opened the bar and he goes, "I got the ticket." Just kidding, I didn't.
But look at your faces. Look at all your faces.
You got so excited.
Faces.
This Charlie, he opens the bar and he says, "We didn't get the ticket, but that's all right. I'll give you all a piece." And they're like, "No, Charlie, it's your birthday. You don't need to give it to us." And he's like, "No, I want you to have it." And it's very cute and actually genuinely adorable.
Oh, Helena Bonham Carter as Charlie's mom was so cute. She did very well.
She was very good.
I completely forgot that she played that character, which, I mean, not shocking that she showed up in a Tim Burton film with Johnny Depp at all. I just completely
But it is hard to watch a Helena Bonham Carter role and forget it's Helena Bonham Carter. And this one kind of, I had that for me.
Yes,
I was immersed in this.
Yes, truly. Because she plays all these different kinds of characters, usually chaotic and evil. And then
and she was just nice in this one.
Yeah. And I was like,
so, one, Wonka bars are fucking humongous in this version.
Oh my God.
They're like the size of your torso. And this bar that they eat is the flavor of the creamer that's coming out. The caramel whipple scrumptious fudgy bitch. It's the flavor of the creamer. So we'll get to recreate this scene, but in liquid form. I did expand on my previous DILF opinions by writing, "DILF confirmed. Mr. Bucket is a DILF. DILF o'clock. DILF Central." I don't know. I got seduced by like the Mike Wozniak brand of sexy earlier this year, and it hasn't really gotten out of my head. And
who's that? I don't know who that is.
It's a joke that will only play to a very specific audience on the show.
Okay.
He's a British comedian.
We had someone who connected with your Ragnarok tapeworm.
Yes.
So I will say this is our genre. So go for it, girl.
Yeah. He's a British comedian who was on Taskmaster who looks like a 70s dad from a sitcom. But there's just something about him where you're like, DILF. You know what I mean? You know, it's fine. Anyway, not important, but I just wanted to get that out there that Charlie Bucket's dad in this is a DILF.
Okay. So we had to thirst for someone. Right.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I'm also somebody, he wears a lot of good sweaters, and that's like a key part of my attraction to people for some reason. Like,
he's like charming, shy, quirky.
He's
British.
Very nice to Mrs. Bucket. He's very sweet.
And that's what we want. Yes.
Exactly. And he wears a sweater, which is my thing, apparently. Like, if I'm attracted to somebody and then they put on a sweater, it's like, plump. You know what I mean? That made it sound like, okay, no, we're not gonna, okay, no. I was saying like up on a graph on the scale of attraction, okay? Up on a graph on the scale of attraction, not anything
good
else.
Old sweater boater, eh?
Anyway, I did, as much as I like Mr. Dilf Bucket, I did want to say, why did he bite into the Wonka bar like that? He grabbed onto it.
I don't think I watched him do that.
No, okay, so he
grabbed
onto it.
Hyper fixated as him as you were.
He grabbed onto it with his fist and he put it to the back of his molars like a dog chewing on a bone and was like gnawing at it. And I was like, how hard is this? Everyone else bit it like a normal person, but this dad, he was like, you know when a dog like chews on a rawhide and he's like really getting it back there in the side of its mouth? That's how he ate it, and I was like, I need to rethink what I said previously.
It's a really thick chocolate, and I loved the sound. Like, this is gonna be hard to sound like when you crack crack, that like thud, that like ooh,
we did it at the same time.
That was good.
It was really good.
Oh, all right.
So now we're gonna move to a Violet Beauregard. How long have we? 52 minutes. Holy fuck!
Shut up! No,
it's been an hour, Elaine.
No way. We literally haven't done anything. There's no way.
I said these were going to be long, Elaine. Okay, so Violet Beauregard, she's an icon in this version as well, but she is so much more explicitly annoying, which I honestly had issues with the 1971 movie because, like, in that movie, Violet was fine. She was just like a normal kid who was a little bit overly confident, but like very normal. And I didn't really understand how she was a problem compared to how the rest of the kids were. And like Augustus wasn't that bad either in that movie. In this movie, all of these kids except for Charlie are genuinely awful. You know, like
it's very
not bad for them at all.
I have feelings about Mike TV, actually.
I do too.
He's a little more complicated. He's still a piece of shit, but
he's a complicated figure.
Layers in this one.
Yeah, he's got a personality, which is good because he's around for 90% of the movie.
Yes.
Where in the 1971 movie, he was just a quiet little boy with a cowboy hat. Just pretended to shoot people all the time.
This Violet Beauregard is supposed to be from Atlanta. Hot Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, my peach southern eastern fellows? I'm originally from Ohio, so that explained that. So they kind of had that like pageantry feel, but I feel like people in Atlanta don't necessarily have this thick southern accent because they're in a metropolis, but there is still like a twang, and they still sounded very Midwestern, I'm Annie on Broadway accent.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Will say, Violet Beauregard's mom in this, icon. She killed that.
Amazing. The fact that she...
her eyes... So now we have Mike TV. So Mike TV in this version is a fascinating character. So he is incredibly smart in this version. Like incredibly intelligent. He basically delivers this whole monologue about how he hacked into this system to get access so he could find the Wonka bars, and he didn't even eat it. He just bought it. He knew where it was, and that's impressive. But he does drop the R slur, so he is giving a really good representation of those Xbox 360 live chat boys in 2005. And this is
very 2005, by the way.
Yes, very 2005.
That was a big word that people were throwing around at that time.
Especially on video game chats. It was the most realistic part of the movie.
Yeah, it very much told you the time you were in, and also, and so he like knows coding and stuff, and yet he's still like kind of aggressive. He doesn't have a gun, and he's not shooting people in this one. He's just very much like
he just like plays GTA. I also was
I
kind of
Timothée Chalamet was like, oh man, I kind of wish I could deck out his Xbox controller mods.
Mike TV in a news interview was like, yeah, I'm actually waiting for a controller from Meta Controller 360 to come in the mail. I got it custom made and it says Willy Wonka's a bitch on it. That's what it said. I'm having this little guy in his Argyle sweater painted for me. Fucking God. I'm paying him $15, little bitch.
He's such a poser. Mike TV's like parents and stuff brought me 70s vibe, because we still have a weird timeless era happening. It's very much like he's very 70s, and then I feel like we get 80s at some point with I don't know. It goes all over the place.
Also, I did want to mention really quick. So, Mr. TV, did you see his hair? Can we talk about his fucking hair? Because it looks like a loaf of bread with like the little like like the.
He should have. He did a comb over with like 3 strands of hair left, and at that point, don't try. Because it's there. We see the bulge.
Also obsessed with the interior design of the TV's home, because Mike TV, he was just sitting on the floor the whole time.
Yeah. Mike TV's dad is I think he did great. I think him as a character, he was the sane person going, like actual sane person being like, should you do that? I don't think so. You know, like he was just like very straight, matter of fact.
Now we're on to Grandpa Joe's secret Wonka bar. So Mr. Bucket got laid off, and I wrote a horror about modernization and industrialization.
The machines are taking over.
Yeah, so Mr. and Mrs. Bucket are a very cute couple in this. We already talked about that a little bit, but like really, they're genuinely just very adorable. So Grandpa Joe has some secret money, but it's not tobacco money, and it's not evil to save like $1 for yourself. Like it's nothing like Grandpa Joe in the previous version. That's like a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
I will say he gives Charlie Bucket the money, and Charlie Bucket leaves the door and he starts to go asleep and says, "Such a good boy, really." And it really makes it seem like Grandpa Joe's dying as he walks out the door. So funny. So Charlie Bucket buys the bar and he comes back and they open it together, and they just open it and it's empty. There's no like lingering on the bar. They don't say anything after seeing it's empty. And there's this like very subtle quietness to the disappointment, which is so much more effective than fucking Cheer Up Charlie. That song, it really, I think pre-Factory, this movie is genuinely just so much better than the 1971 movie, except for the Wonka Mania sequence. Like,
and this grandpa, he basically was like, before I die, I just want to see the inside of the factory one more time. Like, he's not a dying man, but this is his final wish. And so you
And
really understand more what's at stake here.
And you understand for him, too, because he's baffled at why he lost his job almost a little bit and why he was never asked back. Even though there's this wonder behind it, there's also this, like, what the fuck is so good that you could have done? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing that caused our family, you know, whatever. Anyway.
And Charlie's way more obsessed. Like, Charlie's actually obsessed with Willy Wonka in this movie. Whereas other Charlie Bucket is just like, yeah, everyone else buys chocolate, whatever. Like, he's not obsessed. He doesn't know anything really about it until the tickets start happening and he feels like a loser. And in this one, it's like a lot of childhood wonder. So we have a lot of dreams and hopes at stake.
Yeah. And I will say, while the Wonka Mania scenes are not in this movie and aren't good, but I did really appreciate gay couple walking their dog weirdly. I liked those people's inclusion, and I expect a nod to them in the prequel. I think if you're going to take a nod from anything, I want gay couple walking their Dalmatians weirdly. I just really enjoyed them as characters. I don't know. I thought they were fun.
Instead of the Tinkerman, we got a beautiful gay couple. So
I actually, you know what? I prefer them to the Tinkerman. I'll take them.
I was sad there was no Tinkerman equivalent.
I was
it would have really fit the vibe in this one, but that's fine.
Anyway, so Charlie goes into the candy shop, and the candy shop owner, I think, was my favorite character in this entire movie.
Agreed.
I fucking loved this guy.
And he had one line, essentially.
He talked the same way that we do on The Pocket. He said, Charlie, you found the golden ticket. And I was like, it's us! I felt so seen by him. And the way that people reacted in this movie is the way I thought they would react in 1971, where they're like, I'll buy it off you for 100. I'll buy it off you for 1,000. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so he brings it back home and he's like, guys, look, I found the golden ticket. And Grandpa Joe says, and I quote, Yippee! And he gets up and does this little dance, and everyone is like, what the fuck is happening? But it's actually cute and endearing in this movie. Like, it's like a moment of silence
as he's just like little tap dancing in his little nightgown, and oh my gosh, it's so cute.
So they're all excited, and then Charlie says, but I'm not going. And they're like, why, Charlie, why? And he says, we need the money more than we need to see the inside of Wonka's factory, even though it's my dream. And it's so good. It's so cute. And you can see Grandpa Joe knows he's right. And he's so, like, he sits down quietly with this disappointment. And it was really more, though, it really just represented an escape from the mundanity for Grandpa Joe. And he understands, like, what changed. You know what I mean? Like, it's really interesting. And then,
oh yeah,
everybody says, no, Charlie, this is important. And Grandpa George, the mean, down-to-earth grandpa, says, Charlie, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We can get money. You need to go. And he looks so happy when he learns he can go. And I care about Charlie and the Buckets. I care about them. It's insane.
Yeah. I actually am rooting for them, whereas before, like in 1971, you don't have a strong... You're there for the entertainment. You don't care. But like this one, I'm like, Charlie, please go. Don't let the boy go to the factory. And I love that it's like, it's gruff grandpa who is like, he still uses that logic evil in a way. He's like, don't be an idiot. Go.
Now we are at the Wonka gates. They're outside of this like gray prison looking factory. The gates like automatically open and you hear Johnny Depp microphone go like, please enter.
And there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing but open courtyard, gray. Everything's gray. There's not even like a concierge. Like they just have to walk awkwardly into this courtyard.
So it's highly underwhelming. I did think it was kind of funny. And this kind of represents this very big difference between the two Wonkas, whereas Gene Wonka has a need and desire for performance, whereas this Wonka has this fear of being observed and being seen, which I think is fascinating and very much sets the two characters apart. So they go up to the front of the courtyard, like at the entrance to the factory, and there's like some curtains, and they part, and there's a bunch of animatronics singing a song about Willy Wonka. It was very like Shrek-like, that specific bit.
It was nightmare fuel.
Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka. He's
still stuck in my head.
And it's the creepy high-pitched music. And if anyone's ever seen the restaurant Big Boy, it's like a Campbell's Soup child, essentially.
Oh yeah, that does look like Big Boy. Gotcha.
Thank you. Animatronic doll
it's
things.
a small
The
world.
the eyes closing and open. I absolutely hated every fucking moment of this part.
Yeah, and I
It's
think
demonic.
this gives us,
oh my god.
It gives us demonic and sardonic. This is kind of our first impression of Willy Wonka. He's highly egotistical, but also incredibly insecure, is what you learn from this scene. So then it sets on fire. It starts burning, which is genuinely scary.
If you didn't know it was a Tim Burton movie before, that's when it happens, because you get a zoom in on one of the dolls just melting and one of the eyes
flesh
pop
melting
out.
off. Yeah.
And they're like, Willy Wonka. And that's when I was like, oh
and
my
then
god.
You hear, and Johnny Depp is standing next to him and goes, wasn't that great? And I lost my mind. So I think this scene really represents the burning of the ideal of Willy Wonka that they have in their heads. They have this idea of this benevolent chocolate maker, and they turn to see the man next to him, and it's this little fucked up, awkward, giggly monster, and they realize that their deification of Wonka was misguided. Like, they're celebrating this guy who's just a dude with way too much power who definitely needs to go to therapy, because, like, you're really excited, you're about to see this guy who's giving you this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, who's like this incredible figure in the world that everybody adores, and then you turn to your right and you see fucking Johnny Depp in that outfit. I feel like that's what the burning of the puppets was supposed to mean. This is what I mean when I went very film student on this.
No, you know what? I am right there fucking with you, because I have some takes like that as well.
Okay. So in this movie, also, Wonka looks like a fucking corpse. I don't know what they did with his makeup. He looks like dead.
He is unrecognizable, and they did everything to make him like... I'll talk about this more as we go throughout, but I think they really try to make Willy Wonka more of a child adult here.
Yes.
Than in the other one, he is very much an adult. Like, this one is very much his voice to his clean shape. Like, they're trying to hide Johnny Depp's like 5 o'clock shadow constantly. I think that's what the makeup was doing.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the trivia about Johnny Depp's choices for this role.
Love it.
So Johnny Depp, going into this Wonka, he wanted to do something different, which we all know because we've watched it. He succeeded.
He did.
And he had a lot of influences. So I'm going to read these off for you. An incredibly stoned George W. Bush, Howard Hughes, Charles Foster Kane from Citizen Kane, game show hosts, Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
He also said Willy Wonka... specifically, he said that he would be a part Howard Hughes reclusive, part 1970s glamorous rock star, which honestly, not a bad description of what he came out with. If that's his aim, he did what he wanted to do.
I don't know who Howard Hughes is. He did also
want to get a big prosthetic nose, but Tim Burton said absolutely fucking not, get out of my office, which I think is very, when Tim Burton's telling you that's too much, you might need to reevaluate your life choices. Another fascinating thing is that Johnny Depp had some say in the costuming, and he was inspired by fucking Marilyn Manson, who was inspired by Wonka. It all comes fucking full circle, because this is the one that he was referencing, which I'm pretty sure is the one explicitly inspired by the 1970s Willy Wonka.
My god, it is. We have the top hat, the coat, the chain. The chain is very because this Wonka is very like chic.
Yeah.
Like, this Wonka might go to that's insane. That looks just like, oh my god.
It's fascinating. So I think it's really cool that it all kind of came full circle.
Do you think Marilyn Manson cried when he saw that? Just
100%.
Full on weeping.
He said he took my costume, but they couldn't take my me, because he wanted to be Wonka, as we talked about in like last episode.
Right.
Here's where I started to get into my Wonka character analysis.
Oh boy.
There's an insecurity and awkwardness that permeates this Wonka, which isn't as much of an iconic performance. He feels more like a character. Gene Wilder's Wonka's silly quips, one-liners, and stage presence, and this Wonka is uncomfortable to watch, very much in a car crash way. But I like it. That's what I wrote. And I think the one thing that is very clear in this version is Johnny Depp took the part of Wonka has not had contact with people other than Oompa Loompas in 10 years to heart, and it really fucking shows when you watch this.
Because it makes sense. He wouldn't have talked to anybody in that long.
Exactly.
And he's very socially awkward.
It's really clear, and Johnny Depp's Wonka doesn't let you forget that. Gene Wonka looks like he was down at the shops 3 days ago. Johnny Wonka has not talked to a human in 6 years, or been outside in at least 8,
Yeah, you can tell by the haircut too. Awful.
Yeah. Also, one thing to say about his hair, everybody when they dress up as his character, they make his hair black. His hair is brown. His hair is like a brownish red, and it fucked with me. I didn't like it. they get inside the factory. Wonka's like, come on in. He immediately throws his coat on the floor, which I thought was really funny.
He's like, put it wherever you want. I was like, oh.
They're like, where do we put our coats? And he's like, I don't know, just throw it on the fucking floor. I don't care. He says something else. I think somebody introduces himself to him and he just says, I don't care. And it made me laugh really hard.
Oh, it was like, don't you want to know our names? He's like, I don't think that'll really change anything. Okay.
And I think this Wonka is very funny. It's a much funnier performance to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
So the cane that Willy Wonka carries is apparently actually filled with nerds, which at that time were sold under the Willy Wonka brand.
I had no idea.
I had no idea either. What fun things we learned in the movie trivia section of IMDb.
Did he eat it at the very end of the movie? It was like his little Johnny Depp's little motivation. He's like, okay, if I finish the scene and do it right, then I get to eat the candy. And the
I love that. So apparently... Also, okay, that should be in the chocolate room section. Sorry, my trivia was in the wrong place.
How dare you? Okay, so we'll forget. It never happened.
Johnny Wonka's laugh in this movie is very Muppety.
Oh my god. Which is why
I love the Muppets. So like it really so that I think one of the kids I think it's Violet comes up to him and she's like, I love gum and I really think it's important and like I care a lot about candy. And Willy Wonka goes, I never expected to have so much in common. It's so
funny. He also keeps calling them, okay, little girl, thank you. He goes, little girl. Like,
could you please stop it?
But going back to his voice, I think his voice is very important. Also, kind of going back to how Willy Wonka is kind of this permanent child, because when we go back into his like history, which we'll talk about probably in the next episode, he didn't really get to be a kid. So I feel like now he's perpetually stuck. He has a higher pitch.
Elaine, when I tell you, I wrote those exact words later in my document.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
We really came into this episode thinking this would be like a traumatic experience, and we've just been agreeing.
I've just been smiling. I haven't gotten really, I don't know, it's weird. But he, like, first off, very Midwestern voice. It's very, like, to me, it's clear, like, you brought, like, mayonnaise pudding to your Sunday brunch is kind of, that doesn't happen in the Midwest. I'm sorry, everybody. You know, just very, like, that, this kind of thing. And then the laugh is so unique. Like, I have to give it to him. That's one of the chances he took, because like that laugh, if it had been lower, totally different story. But it's almost the way he laughs, it's very much, it's socially nervous. Like, he's awkward, he's nervous when he's doing that laughter, you know. It's not like I'm actually laughing. He's like but when he's walking down that hallway and the kids are behind him and you get a shot of Johnny Wonka's face, that's when I'm like, is this a fucking show? Because you look like a dead-ass serious 40-year-old right now, as opposed to this childish kid who knows nothing. This is conniving dark Wonka in that like split frame.
For me, the way that I read, there are certain parts in this movie where Johnny Wonka stops talking to the children and his parents, and you just see his face not facing them, and his face just goes flat. And it loses that performance aspect. And for me, I don't necessarily think it's this dark Wonka front. There was just something very sad and lonely about the way it was done. To me, I didn't read it as dark Wonka with a front. I read it as lonely man who is really trying.
I see that too. I feel like for me, it's kind of a combo then, because I think he's been needing acceptance in it, like because his dad didn't accept him, so he's been seeking it desperately. But also, like,
it reminded me of when I was very depressed and really trying very hard to be in public, and then as soon as I got in the elevator, face is done, I'm flat. I'm
just
tired,
like, oh my God, I'm over this. A little tidbit for next episode, when we kind of learn that this Wonka is a little more obviously conniving. That's that flash I saw when he's walking down that hallway. This is, I am not so, don't underestimate me. And he is underestimated, which is probably the anger that comes from his daddy issues.
That's true.
So for me, it's a mixture.
I very much flip-flopped while watching this movie, whether or not Johnny Wonka was conniving or not. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
Because in the original one, Gene Wonka, 100% he planned the whole thing.
Yes.
This Wonka, at first, during this intro scene, I was like, there's no fucking way he planned this. That was how I felt at first. Later in the movie,
did it so
different
well.
Story.
My goodness.
He did it so well. I'll be honest, you know how Gene Wonka was like, oh, Gene Wilder did the whole, I wanted to walk out with a cane and then do a whole role so that you could never really trust Willy Wonka. Very cool choice. Loved it. I distrust this Wonka more than I distrust Gene Wonka.
Because
there is something so much more unsettling about Johnny Wonka that I found fascinating to watch. And I genuinely, I really like his take on it. I'm sorry, I do.
It's okay.
So now we move on to one of the reoccurring themes throughout this movie, which I think is one of the funniest parts, is Wonka physically cannot say the word parents. And he's like, so you're here with your... And he just kind of stares into the screen. And then I think it was Mr. Salt goes, parents. And then Wonka goes, yes. Daddy? Papa?
When he goes, Papa?
It's so weird. It is the weirdest way and most obvious way to represent like flashbacks and childhood trauma.
Yes.
Like how obvious this movie handles it is every time that he flashes back to his childhood, you get a whirlpool transition.
Yes. Like it is pure humor on Tim Burton's part.
And
he wanted it to be so campy, and it works. It does work.
By the fourth time, it's done its job. They do it so many more times. Anyway, the kids are a lot worse in this version. They fucking suck. They're all so mean to each other. Veruca and Violet are like, let's be best friends. And then they both hate each other.
Oh my God. It was such a classic catty thing when you're younger. You're like, yeah, we're great. And then you're going to like instantly like gossip about them behind their back and try to ruin their lives kind of thing.
And I guess the last thing to say before we get to the chocolate room is the hallways are just a lot less interesting in this. There's not as many fun. The factory itself, in almost every single way, has worse production design than the 1971 movie.
Yes.
If everything in the movie was practical, I think I would genuinely almost be able to say that I prefer this to the 1971 Wonka as a viewing experience. Do you know what I mean? For me personally.
I guess I could see that, yeah.
I mean, like, one of my favorite movies of all time is this 2003 fucking insanity film with Macaulay Culkin as a club kid. That's like a biopic where he murders somebody, and like the murder is revealed by a big rat in a talking costume. And one of the genuine lines Macaulay Culkin says in the movie is "Scriddle-dee-dee, I can piss again." And like that's where I'm coming from. Do you know what I mean?
I don't. We had a really good run there, Felicia. We had a really good.
The movie's called Party Monster. I missed the whole point of what I was trying to say.
I'm sorry.
Some of my favorite movies are movies that you're watching them and you're like, is this good? Or is this the worst thing I've ever seen?
It keeps you on your toes.
And that is how I feel about this movie.
I'm starting to
talk about this movie like it's the worst thing in the world. This isn't Cats. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. I think, I wonder if time has made it better.
It also just has a more compelling plot line than the 1971 movie because, you know,
you're willing to sit there for
you're rooting for characters. There's more conflict than the 1971 version with the introduction of the Wonka storyline, and I think it's better. I think as a movie adaptation of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, this one is better. It's more accurate to the book. It expands in the ways that a movie needs to make conflict. Whereas the 1971 movie is a good thing, but it kind of just feels like a stage musical where like everybody feels a little cardboardy. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting.
That's
I think we'll have to see. I think in the next episode, when we really dive into Wonka's daddy trauma, which is a whole interesting vibe, we're going to get into the factory. We're going to see what happens to the kids. And worst of all, the Oompa Loompas. I think we'll see how the emotional temperature changes. You seem really set. I'm honestly kind of like on the fence. I go back and forth. So I think I will have a final opinion at the end of all this, but right now I'm just like, I don't know.
I have a lot more negative thoughts once we get into the factory. I still really enjoy the film, but like I enjoy it with a critical eye, you know, a critical lens.
Yes.
I thought I'd already written 5,000 words, so I looked up some like scholarly takes on the way that it treats Oompa Loompas in this movie, which was really interesting and kind of like opened my eyes to a different lens of the film I hadn't seen before. So we're going to get to talk about that. I'm way too deep in the Wonka well. I'm too deep.
Yeah. You know, it's okay. Here's my hand. I'm reaching out to you. Wait, why are you pulling me in? No, don't pull me in. Don't pull me in.
Listeners, we've been recording for an hour and 20 minutes. I want you to know that. I've cut this down probably considerably, but I want you to know an hour and 20 minutes.
And I want you to think, what did get cut out? Felicia, let's you know, I feel like we're ending on a positive note so far. This next episode, so. I'm going to be hopeful, but I think it's now time for our favorite time. As we wrap this up. It is time to guess our predictions for the Wonka prequel and anything around it.
Do we think Wonka's going to have a dog? I don't think he's going to. I was just thinking about the gay couple with the dog again. That's all I
were you thinking? Maybe you're thinking along the lines of animal companion?
Yeah, but I don't think he'd have an actual animal companion. See, we're scrapping the dog. Ignore the dog bit.
Okay.
No. Okay. I think someone in the Wonka movie will say Yippee. That's going to be my prediction.
Ooh.
As a nod to Grandpa Joe in the original novel. Somebody's going to say Yippee. And I think that's pretty... I feel good about that take. I feel like that is an achievable Wonka prediction.
I like it. I have a prediction that Breyer's ice cream is going to come out with some Wonka flavors for their ice cream. Yeah, in terms of marketing and promotion. So I'm going to throw that one out there.
Additional prediction?
Okay.
100% ColourPop Wonka eyeshadow palette.
That's happening. You're right.
There's no fucking way. Someone is going to release an eyeshadow palette, and it's probably going to be ColourPop because ColourPop.
They're all about those collaborations. They've done My Little Pony.
They've fucking done Animal Crossing. They've
done. They're on it.
They're on it. I will say they have a lot with Disney, so I don't know if going over to Warner Brothers would be like severing a marriage.
I don't know, but you guys best believe that my ass will be buying Wonka makeup, and I will do that.
I fucking hope that this podcast can you guys for us share this podcast so that we don't have to spend money on this Wonka makeup and we can get it sent as PR.
Please send us the Wonka items. We're on a budget
because we both
Felicia's
believe
in
it or
grad
not.
School. I'm just broke. Like we need.
Believe it or not, this podcast doesn't. It's not a moneymaker right now. And it would be nice if somebody could fund our Wonka habit so that we're not having to buy the Timothée Chalamet action figures. Somebody sends them to us.
Yes.
Actually, I don't want the Timothée Chalamet action figures. You can leave those out. I want the eyeshadow
that thing would come to life at night and then slap you in your sleep and then go, I'm going to kill you.
Would be lying in his bed and he'd be learning for months how to possess the representations of him across the world. And he keeps dipping into different rooms every night. He's like, I'm going to get those girls one day. And then he finally zips into the one that's on my shelf. And then he starts slowly crawling across the floor. He makes up onto my bed. And then he realizes cane is dull because it's made of plastic and he can do nothing. And I wake up and I grab him in my hand and so I take him over to my workbench, right? I take over the Wonka. I have a workbench now. I'm very Sid from Toy Story. I've got a skull on my shirt and I say, you want to play now, little candy man? And I go and I rip his legs off and I replace them with little robot legs. And then Timothée Chalamet wakes up in his New York apartment and his legs are metal.
That's really like, because I feel like in my scenario, if he just came to life, I'd be like, oh my gosh, do you want to go roast a marshmallow? And he'd be like, yeah, sure.
I think this really shows how the podcast is affecting our brains differently and how we process and are coping.
Do you think Timothée Chalamet hates both of us, likes both of us, or just hates one of us? You know what I mean?
Oh, God. If he hated one of us, that would be the worst.
That would be really sad.
He'd be like, I'll be on the podcast, but only if Felicia isn't there.
I would, no joke, think about it for 1 second. And then after that, I would be like, no, we're a team. Wonka Watch does not exist without me.
He said, no. I will be on the podcast only if I can fully replace Felicia in every aspect of her life and take over her soul.
You know what? Here's what
we would do. In a very
being
John Malkovich way.
We would do it one episode to prove that he would suck at it.
Yeah.
I get it. You're a great actor. You've got a good rap going for you. But you just try to be Felicia. You try to enter that fucking hysteria. You bring the level of scholarly looking up. Do you have Wonka Google alerts? I don't think so, Timmy. And guess what? Joke's on you. I don't do shit. I just sit up here. So it's all on you, bitch. Have fun. I'm going to stare at you until you come up with some magic.
Coming out and you're like, never.
Never.
You killed Felicia. Tell me. She's the one who edits it.
Yeah,
How do you feel now, Timothée Chalamet? How do you feel now?
Want to try to edit a delightful little TikTok? Let's see what you come up with.
This is really antagonistic.
This is a version of Timothée Chalamet that probably doesn't exist. I'm so sorry, Timothy. Remember when we said...
What the fuck are we talking about? This episode was supposed to end 7 minutes ago. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Wonka Watch. It's been really fucking great. Next episode, we're going to be talking about more about Johnny Wonka, and it's going to get even worse. So if you did...
Follow us on TikTok and subscribe on Twitter at Wonka Watch. Send us your emails at wonkarapture@gmail.com. Concerns, most likely. And we will, and just remember after all of this, after the tears, the pain, the laughter, the sorrow, and it's not that important.
It's not that
It's not important at all.
It's not important. There's something about this podcast. In the middle of the episodes, we're so normal, but the beginning and the ends, it's like we break. I don't know what happens.
Unhinged.
It's only the beginning and the end. It's
God.
like we realize what we're doing in those moments, and we have to.
I'm sweating.
It's not that important. Goodbye.